Hey friends, today we have a special guest. Our guest today is a passionate health educator and one of the most unique and insightful person you'll ever meet. He is a successful or raw fruitarian for more than 25 years. When it comes to reality-based health creation information, Don Bennett is someone you can really count on for enlightening and empowering insights. Don is a disease avoidance specialist, and he teaches and lectures on the subject of how to have the best odds of avoiding degenerative disease and of creating robust health in today's world. In this interview, we talk about the benefits and harms of different diets, what we are designed to eat, and why. Hey everyone, I'm here with Don. Don, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Sivan. How are you?
Doing well. So today we are talking about the harms and benefits of different kinds of diets. I brought Don for here to talk with you all about that.
Sure. I want to keep some points in mind. I want you to keep some things in mind about diet in general. We know for sure what every animal on the planet is designed to eat, what every species is designed to eat. There's no arguments what a giraffe is supposed to eat, what a hippopotamus is supposed to eat, what a hummingbird is supposed to eat. There's no arguments. And one of the reasons there's no arguments is because it'd be kind of stupid to argue because we see what they eat in nature. They live in nature, so it's obvious what they eat. We can't argue because we do love to argue. We love to argue as human beings. Now, there's one species of animal that we argue all the time about, and that's human beings, because we're no longer living where we once lived. So everyone has their own ideas because it seems we can eat whatever we want. And so that's one thing I want everybody to keep in mind, that because we're no longer living where we used to live, people just say, no, we're supposed to eat this, we're supposed to eat that. So how can we figure it out since we're no longer living where we used to live? We have to use logic and common sense and not depend on various industries who have kind of a bias. They would like us, the chicken industry would like us to eat chicken. The cow industry would like us to eat cow. Right. In some countries they serve dog and they would like us to eat dog. But are we designed to eat these things? That's the big question. Now, you've probably heard of the different categories: omnivore, herbivore, carnivore, frugivore, all those categories. Did you ever wonder, well, who invented those categories? They were invented by Carl Linnaeus in about 1740. Mm-hmm. So those categories have been around for a while. Now, when he invented those categories, he then took all the different animals on the planet and put them into the individual categories. And where do you think he put human beings? Any guesses? He put them into the category of frugivore, just like the other anthropoid apes. Right. We are frugivorous animals. In other words, we're supposed to be eating mostly fruit, not 100%, but mostly fruit. So we're a fruit-eating species. So that is what we're designed to eat. Science has shown that. Not the science you're going to hear about on the evening news, but the real science shows that we're a fruit-eating species. Now, and to eat fruit, obviously you wouldn't cook it, because who would cook watermelon or papaya? You would just eat them. You eat an apple. Although you could cook an apple and make an apple pie, but now you're going to be doing some damage, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So we're designed to eat a fruit-based diet. But some people say, well, but human beings are omnivores. You might have heard that, right? We're omnivores. Now, so what's the definition of an omnivore? An omnivore is an animal that can eat lots of different things. That's what we hear. But that's not entirely the entire definition. An omnivore is an animal that can eat lots of different things in order to survive. But there's a difference between surviving and thriving. So all omnivorous animals, all animals who are omnivores, can eat all kinds of different things, but they have one diet that they would prefer to eat. In other words, it's the best diet. It's the one that will allow them to thrive and to be the healthiest they can be. Mm-hmm. But it's when those foods of that diet are not available that they can eat other things in order to not die, in order to survive. Yeah. In other words, a univore is an animal that can only eat one thing. And if that one thing isn't around, that animal will die. So that's why omnivorous animals develop, because it was just more of a survival. It really is a survival tactic. So human beings obviously can eat lots of different types of diets and we can survive. But again, surviving is not the same as thriving. The difference is, or the difference can be getting or not getting a diagnosis of something life-threatening later on in your life. So if you're thriving, one of the definitions of thriving is you never get a diagnosis of something that's life-threatening. But surviving, and which is what most people are doing today, because most people are not eating the diet they're designed to eat.
Yeah.
They're just surviving, and what comes along with surviving is what's written down on your death certificate is some degenerative disease that ended up being responsible for taking your life, instead of dying of old age, of nothing specific. Okay, so now I want to tell everybody that's listening, before you start even researching into the different diets and trying to figure out what diet am I designed to eat, or what diet should I eat, or what diet am I going to pick, because there's lots of different diets for human beings as opposed to giraffes, the first thing you should think about before even looking into the individual diets is, well, how healthy do I want to be? Because that really will impact on your choice. So let's put health on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the healthiest that you can possibly be, the healthiest that your genetics will allow you to be. That's 10. And 1 is the worst possible health you can possibly have. So if you wanted a health level of 1, well, then you would have to drink and smoke and eat the worst possible diet, stay up late, don't get enough sleep, don't exercise, and whatever you do, do not go out in the sun at all. And then you'll get a level of 1, and you may live to, 45 or 50 years old. But if you want to be able to live closer to what our natural age should be, the top of the age limit, which is about 120, now we're not going to get that way anymore. We probably lived to around 120 in prehistoric times. As long as we got enough to eat and we weren't eaten, we could live to around 120. But today it's just not going to happen because of genetics that have handed down poor genetics over the generations, and the toxins in the air and the stress that we all have in our lives. So, but if you want to get closer to like 100, which is a more realistic number today, and it's not just the number, it's the quality of life, not so much the quantity. What do you want your quality of life to be at whatever age you're going to be at when you die? I want the best quality of life. Okay, so that's what you got to decide first, is how healthy do you want to be? Because if you do want to be let's say you want to be a 5, well, then you have some dietary choices. There are different diets that you can choose to eat if you only want to be 5. But if you want to be 10, if you want to be the healthiest that your body can possibly be, well, then it makes choosing simple, because you only have one choice, one diet, and that's the diet you're designed to eat. So it kind of makes life simpler in a way. Now, some people will say, no, because that means I can't eat the diet that all my friends are eating, my family is eating. Well, if you want to live your life the way people who are living according to a number 4 or number 5 or maybe number 6, well, then you're going to get what they get. If you live the way they do, you'll get what they get. If you want to get something better, if you want to have the best odds of never getting breast cancer or lung cancer or brain cancer or heart disease, then you'd have to pick 10, because that will give you the best odds. Another way to look at it is everybody is going to have a last 10 years of your life. No matter what age you live to, you will have a last 10 years. And that's when it's toughest to be healthy, because we've aged and your body does break down somewhat. So how fast it breaks down really depends on diet and lifestyle practices. So if you want the last 10 years of your life to be really, really great as it can be, if the only reason you're going to be in the hospital during that period of time is to visit somebody else and you don't go in, well, then your choices are pretty simple, to live the way you were designed to live. And again, we've already pointed out that human beings are frugivorous animals as far as their diet is concerned. So we've got to look towards that. Now, when you're eating a diet other than a fruit-based diet, that comes in kind of 2 categories. You can eat a vegan diet or a non-vegan diet, because I know a lot of vegans, people who don't eat any animal products, and most of them are doing it for moral and ethical reasons, but you can still eat an unhealthy vegan diet that will not let you reach your health potential. And one of the factors that distinguishes the other diets from the diet you're designed to eat is cooking. The diet you're designed to eat does not require cooking, and good thing too, because we wouldn't have gotten to this point in our lives, in our history, if we had to cook our food from the 100,000 years ago, because there was no way to do it.
Yeah.
So all the other animals on the planet obviously eat an uncooked diet. And even domestic pets like cats and dogs, we have found that when they eat the cooked animal, pet foods that they get, they don't do as well as when they eat the raw pet food that you can now buy in many stores. I don't know if Israel has them, but in pet stores here in the United States, we have now for the last about 5 years raw pet food. It's frozen, and you defrost what you want to use, and you give it to your pet, and it's not been cooked, and they do so much better. Now the pets, the cats and dogs, do not get arthritis. They do not get heart disease. And that's a huge difference, because before they were eating a cooked animal diet. So cooking really has a big effect on whatever diet you want to choose. Some people will come here and do an interview with you and name the different diets. I'd rather just put them into the two categories of cooked and not cooked.
Yeah.
And if you're eating an uncooked diet, it's, obviously you're not eating animal products now, because it's very difficult to eat animal products or grain products if you don't cook them. And that should be something that gives you a clue. Okay, since we started out without cooking, the diet we're supposed to eat, or the diet we're designed to eat, should be something that we could eat without cooking. Now, I know some people would say, yes, that's how we started, but today we've adapted to a cooked food diet, whatever that cooked food diet is. But if we've adapted, because the body can adapt to certain things, but if we've truly adapted to it, we wouldn't be getting all these diseases of lifestyle practices, which is mainly diet. We wouldn't be getting cardiovascular disease and cancer and all this other stuff. So no, we haven't adapted. The body is trying as best as it can to keep us in good health, but we just burden it with certain things like cooked food. Okay, so when eating an animal or grain-based diet, the foods have to be cooked, and cooking has problems associated with it. It damages things, and if you doubt that, just take a frying pan, put it on a burner on your stove. Don't put anything in it, no butter, no nothing. Just put it on, turn the heat on, turn the flame on, and wait about 5 minutes, and then take your hand and put it in the frying pan. And you'll see that the heat will damage your hand. Now, you can, I don't say to do this, of course, but if you want to do a different experiment to see what heat does to protein, let's say, because food has fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Those are the three main categories. So what does heat do to those three main categories? Let's take protein. If you take an egg and you crack the egg and you open it up and you separate the white from the yolk, take the white of the egg, that's albumin, that's pure protein, 100% protein, and throw the white of the egg, which isn't white yet, by the way, you'll know it's golden and it's kind of clear. Throw that into that frying pan instead of putting your hand into it, and watch what happens to that to the albumin of the egg. It changes in every way possible. It changes how it looks, because now it turns white. It changes how it feels. It changes how it tastes. It changes how it smells. And what's happening there is the heat of the frying pan is damaging the protein. It's denaturing it. Yeah. And so that's what you see. So there's an easy way to see what cooking does to protein. Now, what cooking does to fats, it damages fats in such a way where there's no really easy way to see it like you can with the frying pan and the egg, but it damages the fats in such a way where it places a great burden on the body to then deal with them. And that's one half of the equation. The other half is now you're not getting the fat, because we do need some fat. So if you're damaging a lot of the fat you're eating, you could wind up with an omega-3 fatty acid deficiency, and that's not healthy. Now, what does it do to the sugars, to the carbohydrates? Cooking will caramelize them. When you caramelize them, and if you've ever had a caramel apple, you see what caramelization does when you heat, like if you get maple syrup and you heat it, it turns into a caramel. It makes it very difficult for the body to then break it down, because that is the fuel the body is designed to work on. Yeah. We're designed to work on sugar. So when people say, no, sugar is bad. Well, no, only the bad sugar is bad. The good sugar is good. It's not bad. So the sugar that comes from fruit, if you eat the fruit, that's the good sugar. It comes in a good package. It comes with fiber. It comes with water. Now, but if you take, let's say, fructose out of fruit and you turn it into a sweetener and you turn it into high fructose corn syrup, well, now it becomes bad. Yeah. So it was a good sugar, when it was in the fruit, but now we've taken it out, we've isolated it, we've done things to it, then it can become bad. So that's why when you hear, well, fructose has it's bad, it has a bad name to it, only when it's outside of the fruit, not when it's in the fruit. Plus, in most fruits, you have more glucose than fructose anyway, and that's really the main fuel of our bodies is glucose. So that's what happens basically when you cook foods. You do damage, not everything, because obviously if you've damaged all the sugar and fat and protein and you didn't get any of it, well, we couldn't live on cooked food. So it doesn't damage all of it, it just damages a lot of it, but we don't really need that much fat and protein to begin with, so there's enough left from all the cooked food that you're eating to kind of give us the fat and protein we need. But that's really, some people would say, okay, so as long as we're getting enough and we're getting enough sugar in whatever form that our body can use, I'm not losing weight, I'm not wasting away. What's the big deal with eating the cooked food if we're getting enough of the carbohydrates and the fat and the protein? Well, what about that other category of vitamins and minerals? Aha! That should be an aha moment, because cooking damages those in such a way where it makes them much less available to our body.
Right.
And if we don't have enough vitamins and minerals, over time, we go downhill and we age more rapidly and we become more susceptible to various diseases. And I like to say that nutrition, the vitamins and minerals and the phytonutrients and the rare earth elements and all that stuff, it's not like your car running on fuel. If you have a full gas tank, your car is running just fine. If you have a half a gas tank, your car is still running perfectly fine. If you have a quarter gas tank, a 1/8 gas tank, your car is functioning exactly the same. In other words, its level of functioning is like this until you run out of fuel, and then it goes straight down. Nutrition is not like that. If we're getting certain nutritional insufficiencies and deficiencies because we're cooking our food, our health just declines very slowly over time. And since it's happening to most everybody, we think this is a normal way to age.
Yeah.
And it isn't. When you look at the people, especially kids who were raised as raw foodists, eating a fruitarian diet from birth, and you see how they age, and we're starting to see that now because it's been around long enough, well, they're aging a lot more slowly than the rest of the population, and they're brighter and cheerier, and they don't get angry, and they're smarter in school. So we're starting to see a lot of that empirical evidence. So that's the benefits of eating an uncooked diet, is that you're not cooking the food. And by the way, when you damage food, whether you're damaging the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates, it's kind of a double whammy, because you're putting into your body damaged substances that the body now has to deal with, but the cooking damages the vitamins and minerals, the nutrients that our immune system needs to function optimally. Mm-hmm. So it's a 1-2 punch. You're damaging your immune system, which now you need more than ever to deal with the damaged fat, protein, and carbohydrates that are coming in.
Yeah.
So that's why cooking is so damaging to food. And again, there's a lot of vegans out there who became vegan not for health reasons, but for moral, ethical reasons, and they're eating still cooked food. Even though there's no animal products in it, they're eating cooked food. Okay, so the main benefits of the diet that we're designed to eat is it doesn't place a burden on the body, and also there's less energy required to process the food. Now, that's an important point I want to touch upon. If you have a messy house and you have to clean it up suddenly because your parents are coming over or your friends are coming over or you're going to have a party, it's going to take a lot of energy to clean up that house. But if your house is always clean and people are going to come over, there's very little energy that you're going to have to use to get the house ready to go. So digestion of any food, doesn't matter what it is, digestion is the most energy-intensive process that our bodies have. But you can still make it a little easier. When you're eating nothing but fruit, that fruit is very easy to digest. It doesn't require a lot of electrical energy. And by the way, when I talk about energy, there's 2 types of energy that the body has. There's caloric energy. That's the fuel value of food that you get from eating it. But there's also electrical energy, which you don't get from eating food. You get that from sleeping. And that's why we sleep. So if anyone's curious, like, really, why do we sleep? Can't we just never sleep? The reason why we have to sleep is the same reason you have to plug your cell phone into the wall to recharge it. You know what happens if you don't. You go for about a day and you don't recharge it. What does it do? It dies. We would do the same thing. if we were kept awake and prevented from sleeping. In fact, there's a disease that some adults get. It's rare, but when they get into their mid 40s, they can no longer sleep. They just cannot sleep. You can't put them to sleep with drugs. They don't sleep. They last about a week and then they die because they can't recharge the nervous system energy. And there's no way, we haven't figured out how to plug human beings into an electrical source to recharge their electrical energy.
Yeah.
So that's what's recharged when we sleep, and we sleep deeply. That's why it's called regenerative sleeping or restorative sleep. So when you're eating nothing but fruit, that hardly requires any electricity to sleep, any to process, any nerve energy to process. When you're eating, like, let's go to the other end of the spectrum, Thanksgiving dinner in the United States, we eat that everyone eats a whole turkey, and they eat a whole big pot of mashed potatoes, and they have to loosen their belts. And what's the first thing that happens? They all fall asleep. And it's not from the tryptophan that's in the turkey. They can do this from eating ham or pig or whatever they're eating. They just stuff themselves with so much food. There's not enough nervous system energy to process such a difficult to process meal, and they literally have to fall asleep to regenerate more electrical energy to process that meal. Yeah. So, and keep in mind that healing requires electrical energy, requires our nerve energy. So the less nerve energy you are spending on digestion, first of all, the less you have to sleep, which is nice, because the less you sleep, the more you're awake, and the more you're awake, the more you can enjoy life. So that's another one of the benefits of eating a very easy to digest diet, is it doesn't require as much nervous system energy or nerve energy, and you have more for yourself, for healing, for staying awake, for enjoying life. So that's the other benefit.
Yeah. That's also important for athletes, for their body to focus on recovery and not on digesting food.
Sure, especially important for athletes, because athletes need more nervous system energy than a person that does an average amount of physical activity. Yeah. They're burning through a lot more, so they need more, and that's why athletes usually have to sleep more than the average individual. They may have to sleep, especially after a marathon or a triathlon or something, you find that you have to sleep longer, maybe by another whole hour or maybe even an hour and a half, because you have to replenish that nervous system energy. It's kind of the same thing where it's easier to charge your cell phone if you're not talking on it. If you're talking on it while you're trying to recharge it, the recharging is slower because you're using more of it. So it's easier to recharge it if the screen turns off. If whatever it would normally do, it's turned off, it'll charge faster. Same thing with us. Now, that doesn't mean the best way to recharge is to be a couch potato and to be sedentary. Yeah. Because yes, it would use less nerve energy, but now you're not getting enough physical activity for your lymphatic system to move, and so that's a whole nother interview, I guess. So now I would mention this, it's very important. So you would say, okay, well, I'll eat a vegan diet, no animal foods in our diet, and I'll eat mostly fruit and some greens and maybe some nuts and seeds here and there. Okay, I won't cook anything, so I'm eating pretty close to what I would have eaten 100,000 years ago, so now I'm eating the best diet. Well, it's technically the best diet, but if the foods of the best diet aren't grown the same way they were 100,000 years ago, then maybe it's still the best diet, but it's not the best foods of the diet. So what I'm saying is that most people today are getting their foods not from the wild, from trees that have maybe 30 feet between them. Now they're getting their food from trees that are planted right next to each other from the agri-based food industry. Mm-hmm. And that industry grows food for lots of different reasons, like for yield or appearance or size or growth rate, pest resistance, shelf life. They grow food for a lot of different reasons, but not for nutritional value. They don't grow food for nutritional content because we as consumers are not asking them to. The governments are not forcing them to. So why should they? So the only thing they put back into their soil is just 3 things. Not 24 things, but just 3 things that they have to put back into the soil for the food to grow at all. Mm-hmm. But what about the other 21 nutrients that we need? The soil starts to become depleted of these things, and that's one explanation as to why raw foodists, and I've been counseling raw foodists for 13 years now, and vegans of both kinds, raw vegans and non-raw vegans, and I see the same thing happening over and over again. Eventually, if they're just eating fruits and vegetables and they're not eating any processed products, which are where salt is added to the processed products, a lot of raw food vegans start getting a craving for salt after a while. Why is that? Because your body has a sodium requirement, and if it's not being met from the foods that you're eating, you're going to get a craving for whatever's not being met. And salt is a big one. So you'll get I want salty foods. So a lot of raw food vegans will start cheating and going back and eating some salty snacks and things that they used to eat that were salted, that had a lot of high sodium content, because that's what their body's requiring. And the reason it's happening is because the farmers are not putting sodium back into the soil. They're putting phosphorus and potassium and nitrogen back in the soil. So no one's really having a phosphorus deficiency or a potassium deficiency, but they're getting a sodium deficiency. And when you think about that, you have trillions of cells in your body, and each cell has a sodium-potassium pump. It's a pump that works with sodium and potassium. So if you're getting plenty of potassium because the farmers are putting that back into the soil, but you're not getting enough sodium because the farmers are not putting that back into the soil, now your pumps are not starting to work right. And that's bad. You'll die if the pumps don't work right in your cells. So your body says, salt, give me salt, give me salt. So that explains why this big salt craving that a lot of raw food has come up with. And you can tell if you buy tomatoes from the store, they don't taste as good as if you grow your own tomatoes in good soil. And that's because what gives tomatoes their taste is basically sodium, salt. So if the sodium is in the soil, it's going to be in the tomato, and the tomato is going to taste what we call savory. But tomatoes I buy in the store, unless they're locally grown in really good soils, they don't really taste savory if they're coming from the agri-based food industry. So that's just something to keep in mind, that even if you're technically eating the healthiest diet, the best diet, the diet that we're designed to eat, you still have to make sure that those foods contain the nutrients that the body requires for optimal health. So one of the things that I realized when I realized that I wasn't getting everything I needed from the foods that I was getting, the fruits and a little bit of vegetables that I was eating, is that we have to do something to supplement. Now, I know a lot of people would say, oh, no, supplement, no, that's bad. We should not have to supplement. Well, yeah, in a perfect world, we would not have to supplement. But we have how many billions of people on the planet today? Compare that to how many human beings there were 100,000 years ago? No, so, there's only so much sodium on the planet. So we're not getting enough in the fruits and vegetables. And again, the farmers are not putting all those they're not putting chromium, iodine, and calcium, all that stuff back into the soil. So we could come up with certain deficiencies. That's why even raw foodists, as they get older, no, their bones are not, oh no, were they not getting enough calcium? Well, they were getting a little bit more than the average person, but still, we have the capacity to live till, let's say, 100 years old. I want to be in really good health when I'm 99, so that last year of my life, I'm in great health. So this is why I highly recommend that unless you're growing all your own food on your own soil that you know is good, which most of us aren't, you've got to get a supplement. Now, I'm not talking about a pill or a capsule. Multivitamins and these things are mostly junk. 99% of the supplements you'll find in a health food store are garbage. Only 1%. In other words, if I had a health food store, my supplement department would be about this wide maybe. That's the shelf space I would need for supplements. And you see the kind of shelf space you have for supplements in most health food stores. It's ridiculous. It just goes on and on and on. It's so much garbage. So here's the multivitamin that I recommend.
Daily Green Boost.
Now all this is it's a green powder, but what it is it's barley grass that has been juiced. So they get the juice from the grass, then they dry it with a cold process to evaporate the water out and turn it into a powder. Now you might say, well, we're not really grass eaters like a cow is. A cow has multiple stomachs to be able to eat grass. But I'm not saying we should eat grass. You can get barley grass powder, which I don't recommend at all. And that's just barley grass that has been dried and basically just powdered. But that's the grass. We're not grass eaters. So they juice the grass. This company juices the grass and then turns the juice into a powder. And this has helped many of my clients regain lost health. I'm talking about long-term raw foodists. So when you hear some raw food educators saying, well, as long as you eat all raw fruits and vegetables, you don't have to worry about your nutrition. Well, obviously this is incorrect. This has been proven to be wrong now. We have enough of a track record. At least I do. And I'm trying to share it with my peers and with your audience so that people know that just because you're technically eating the diet you're designed to eat and you're making sure you get enough sleep and you're making sure you get enough up and down motion to move your lymphatics and you're getting enough physical activity and sunshine. And that's another point I wanted to bring out. When people go from a typical Western diet to all the way to the other end, to the best diet that we're designed to eat, the fruits and vegetables, what about vitamin D and B12. Those are not normally food-provided nutrients.
Yeah.
Vitamin D is supposed to come from the sun, and B12 we're supposed to make our own, but most people are not capable of making enough of their own for various reasons. So, but those things are put into, let's say, cereal. The companies that make cereal, as the cereal goes into the box, the cereal is sprayed with B12 and with vitamin D. So that's how the governments make sure that we're not all dying from these nutritional deficiencies that we used to die of, D and B12. They put it into the foods. So if you're not getting enough sunshine, no problem. You got the vitamin D in your cereal. Same thing with B12. So what happens when you stop eating processed products and you eat the diet you're designed to eat? Well, now what about D and B12? Now you've got to be educated enough so you say, okay, I'm not going to get D and B12 from my diet anymore because I'm not really designed to do that in the first place, but I'm living up here in Canada, or I think Israel is far enough away from the equator where there will be times of the year in Israel where the sun is simply not strong enough. Even at 12 noon with no clouds in the sky, it's not strong enough to make vitamin D in your skin because it's shining through too much atmosphere because of the angle, because it's wintertime for you. Same thing for people in Canada. I have a lot of clients in Canada, and they're about the same level as Israel, I think. So they have to get vitamin D from someplace, and either you and your viewers should come down and visit me in South Florida because I'm closer to the equator, or you can take a vitamin D supplement. But wait, there's more to understand about vitamin D, and maybe we'll talk about this in another interview, but I'm just trying to show you all the different points about eating the healthiest of diets. The sunshine on your skin does make D, but it also makes D-sulfate and cholesterol sulfate.
Yeah.
But you don't see D-sulfate and cholesterol sulfate in your vitamin D supplement. It's not in there. They're not putting it in there. The science is still pretty young on these other two items. So maybe 10 or 15 years from now, those other two items will be in your vitamin D supplement. So what I'm saying is if you live where you get your vitamin D winters, where the sun isn't strong enough, and you take a vitamin D supplement, you're not getting D-sulfate and cholesterol sulfate, which is very important for good health, for vegans, for people who are trying to eat the optimal diet. So in other words, the point I'm making here is you need to be really educated. It's not just as simple as eating fruits and vegetables or eating more. Sure, I will tell people who are eating a Western diet, hey, the more fruits and vegetables you can get into your diet, the better, because it'll crowd out the meat and the chicken and all the fish, all the other animal products that you're eating. And then when they start to feel better, well, when you feel better, it's like if you take a recreational drug. Ooh, you feel better, and that's why you like to continue taking that drug. So if people eating what is really not our natural diet, and we get more of their natural diet into them, they start feeling better, problems go away. That's a huge one. When problems start to go away, little problems that weren't serious, they just always had them, and they assumed, well, it comes with aging. But when they go away, they realize, oh, this isn't natural. Oh, it was my diet that was causing this. Let me go a little further. Let me eat a little bit more fruits and vegetables and crowd out even more of the meat. Let me just stop the meat altogether. And then when they get the meat and the dairy, especially those two out, and then the grain products, wow, they start feeling so much better. Problems go away. And that really, that solidifies it for them. Now we can talk about in another interview how to, how to stick with the healthiest of diets, especially if your family isn't doing it and your friends are making fun of you. Yeah. That's a whole nother lecture. Yeah, sure. So that was my point. Even eating the best diet, technically, we still have to make sure that the body is getting what it requires for optimal health, and that means the diet and sleep and the nutrients and the exercise and the whole ball of wax.
Hope you find the information helpful. This is the first video in the series Don and I are working on to help you become the healthiest, best version of yourself. If you want to learn more about Thorn and his services, you can check out his website on health101.org. Click here or on the link in the description below. Also, comment below. Let me know if you have any other questions you'd like us to answer. We'll see you in the next video.